Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Raising Healthy Mothers. Do you ever walk into a room and completely forget why you're there? Or do you sometimes stand in front of the fridge staring blankly at it, not quite sure why you opened it in the first place? Or maybe you find your car keys in there. Or do you find all the things that you need to remember for the week ahead from school completely overwhelming? If you find yourself often blaming this on mum brain or the menopause or perimenopause, then this is the episode for you, because I'm going to dive into why there could be something else going on. Forgetfulness, brain fog, overwhelm isn't just what you should expect as a busy mum. I think it is your body trying to tell you some clues about how it's actually feeling. So today I'm going to explain why it happens and a few small shifts that you can do to help you feel sharper, more focused, and just more in control, and a bit like the you before you had children. So what is really causing mum brain, the so-called famous mum brain? It's frustrating because we sort of we get it first in pregnancy, don't we? And there's actual genuine reasons for that, because our brain literally changes throughout pregnancy, so that we can focus much more on our babies once they're born. But it sort of doesn't really shake after our baby has maybe grown up a little bit more and is a little less dependent on us. And I think there are three clear reasons for this. So number one is the obvious, the lack of good quality sleep. Your brain needs sleep to process memories especially, but it needs that deep rest at night to properly function the next day. So if you are being woken up multiple times in the night, then it's no wonder that your brain is not going to be functioning properly tomorrow. And of course, our natural reaction is to then rely on the coffee to see us through the day. But it's important to note here that while we might not be able to do very much about the quantity of our sleep, there's a lot we can do about the quality of your sleep. And this is not a new topic. I have talked about this a lot on this podcast over the years. But it is a drum that I will continue to bang, because I really empathize how hard it is to get enough sleep when you have toddlers or even school-age children still waking up in the night when you think that by now they should be sleeping through. But I do think there is stuff that you can do about the quality of your sleep. We put a lot of emphasis on our children's bedtime routine, but we rarely pay much attention to our own pre-bed routine. There are a lot of different factors that affect the quality of our sleep. So maybe things like eating too close to bedtime, watching screens or scrolling on our phones too close to bedtime, being too much in contact with the outside world, being in rooms with bright lights and loud noises, or even just any noise, is going to be affecting the quality of our sleep. Just think about the fact that for most of our history as human beings, we spent the time after the sun went down in darkness. There was no such thing as electricity. We would have had candles, maybe, if we were lucky. Maybe we had a fire in our caveman days, but we had not very much light and definitely not a lot of noise, and certainly not much communication and connection with the outside world. And so if you think about the kind of environment that we put ourselves in, especially at night time, and how it compares to even just 100 years ago, what it would have been like, it's far removed. So when it comes to quality of sleep, that is going to be affecting it, because our body will see those as stressors. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. That would mean our sleep would be much worse quality than it could be if we had this kind of calm, quiet, dark, easy introduction to bedtime. So the second factor, which I've already alluded to, is stress and high cortisol, which is the hormone that is associated with stress. So when you are in stress mode, your brain prioritizes survival, not remembering what you need to pack in your child's school bag for the next day, or remembering that it's World Book Day this week. Stress as a mum happens when you get all these competing priorities that just live free of charge in your brain. So you might have work commitments, you might have family demands, your children's needs, and then of course you have your personal needs and your priorities. There are societal expectations, the stress of constantly being aware of what's going on around the world. Like, we currently live in this state where we have an unnatural knowledge of what's going on in the world. And we see this as a good thing. We see this information as a good thing, that we are well informed. But knowing what everyone is doing in the world around us, and even if knowing what people in our network, people we actually know but don't live like in our house or in our immediate community, knowing what they're doing, even though you don't see them, is not really a very natural way of being. So we live in this unnatural world of constant communication and very close connection, but it's causing more stress rather than allowing us to feel more connected with our society. And so that is going to be feeding into the way our brain works. And of course, our needs get pushed right away. We have all of these competing priorities, and more often than not, what we need and what should be our priority gets pushed right down. Things like eating properly, getting enough exercise, socializing with people, having hobbies external to being a mum. All of those factors are perceived as stressors because our body doesn't get the downtime and the care that it needs to function properly. And the thing is, our body sees all stresses as just a threat. It doesn't differentiate between the stressor of having a big presentation for work the next day and being chased by a bear. Our body just doesn't know the difference, and so it reacts in the same way. And of course, that continual build-up, that underlying low-level stress, causes our brain to not really function properly. And then the third factor is nutrient depletion. So if you've ever wondered, I wonder whether what I eat matters and whether it's affecting how well my brain is working, well, of course it does. And I would say that I'm a nutritional therapist, and that is the work that I do. But it is such a foundational, basic factor to know about how well your brain is working. So your brain, as a starting point, your brain is largely made up of fat, and it needs the right type of fats to function properly. Fat makes up a large proportion of the cell membranes, and we want our cell membranes to be flexible to allow information in and out so that they work properly. And to keep them flexible, we need fats, and we also need water. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. A particular type of fat, omega-3, have anti-inflammatory properties that protect the brain from cognitive decline and mental conditions that can really affect the quality of our life. And then your cells also need B vitamins to make energy and iron for oxygen. So again, low levels of these can cause symptoms of poor brain function. If we often find ourselves being quite forgetful, if we're anxious, if we have low mood, these are often signs that you could be depleted in certain nutrients. And we always think about the B vitamins and iron in those factors there. Now, I mentioned hydration, so your brain is made up of 75% of water. It goes without saying then that we need to be properly hydrated for the brain to work well. Dehydration can reduce the blood flow and oxygen to the brain. So obviously, as I mentioned before, that is going to be affecting how well we are able to think. And of course, a lack of water can trigger headaches. And I think this is really common. It's certainly something that I struggle with often. When I get a headache, I almost always know it's because I haven't been drinking enough, usually the day before. And just drinking water at that point isn't really going to have the effect you need, because at that point you've lost the electrolytes and so on. So those are the three factors I think that are really key when it comes to brain function. And they are so easily resolved, of course, but so easily forgotten about as a mum when we just fuel ourselves with sugar and carbs and coffee just to see us through the day. But of course, if we can fuel ourselves properly, make sure we're well hydrated and manage our stress levels, then we are going to be able to think better. And so therefore, it isn't just mum brain, it isn't just the menopause, it isn't just the stage of life that I'm going through. So to just give you something really tangible and easy and actionable to go away with, here are 3 quick wins to help you boost your brain that you can do immediately as soon as you finish listening to this. So number 1 is to focus on eating brain boosting fats. Just some really simple tweaks can make a difference. So one of the biggest changes that you can make is to introduce these healthy fats into your diet, especially those that are high in omega-3. Remember, your brain is largely made up of fats. So if you're often running on carbs and sugar, then your brain just isn't getting the fuel that it needs. So some easy tweaks would be make up a trail mix and keep it in the car to snack on if you find yourself often on the school run without having had any breakfast. Adding a handful of walnuts to yogurt for breakfast is a really easy way to get those omega-3s in. Use olive oil liberally in salad dressings and cooking. Don't be afraid of it. And plan in a fatty fish meal 2 to 3 times a week. So the fatty fish is where you get the really important omega-3, which makes up the fats in your brain. That's fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout, anchovies. My second top tip is to take a deep breath. Remember, stress affects your ability to form and retain memories. And I bet you're listening right now while you're doing something else. Maybe you're washing up, maybe you're driving a car, I don't know. But let's do this right now. Let's, seriously, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just take a pause, breathe in for a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it for a count of 4, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out for a count of 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. And can you repeat that 3 or 4 times? And when you just it doesn't take more than a couple of minutes, does it? Just take that time to just take those slow, deep, intentional breaths. It really reduces that stress and shifts your brain out of stress mode and into focus mode, into relaxed mode. It's the simplest thing in the world. You take your breath everywhere with you. So try and build this into your day, maybe once or twice a day if you can't manage more than that. Maybe can you do it as soon as you wake up in the morning? Can you do it when you put the kettle on to make your first cup of tea? Whatever it is, taking that time to take some deep breaths and slow things down really helps your brain to process information much, much better. And then my third actionable tip that hopefully you can do straight after you finish listening to this, or maybe even while you're listening to this, is to get outside for 5 minutes. Getting natural light first thing in the morning really helps to improve your memory and brain function because it helps to regulate your circadian rhythm. That's a rhythm that tells you whether it's daytime and nighttime and when to be awake, when to be asleep. And that can really help to control your energy levels and sleep. When you get outside for even just 5 minutes in the morning, you could stand by your open door or walk to the end of the road, walk around the block. It tells your brain, wake up, it's morning time, it's time to be alert. And that can really, I know it sounds super simple, but it will carry you through the day. And then later on, it can help you to wind down properly so you actually sleep better and don't wake up feeling like you've been hit by a truck. And this is why walking to school is so great for children. Even if you live too far away to walk the whole way, can you park a little bit further away and give them the opportunity to be in daylight before they go into their classrooms where they're going to not be in daylight until later on in the day? I know getting outside can feel like just one more thing in a busy morning. It's definitely something that I struggle with too. But now that the weather's getting a little warmer, can you maybe take your cup of coffee outside, even just for 5 minutes, for the first few sips of your coffee? Maybe just try it for a few days and see if it makes you feel a little bit sharper and a bit different. So those are my top tips when it comes to brain function. So just to recap, the 3 things that can cause this sort of so-called mum brain, this forgetfulness, a brain fog, lack of good quality sleep, high stress, and nutrient depletion. And then the 3 wins that you can do hopefully right away is to eat some healthy fats that will boost your brain, take some deep breaths, slow down, get into de-stress and focus mode, and then get outside for 5 minutes every single day, first thing in the morning. So if brain fog, forgetfulness, or just feeling like you're constantly running on empty is your reality right now, well, number one, you're not alone. I know a lot of people feel the same. I know my clients often come to me feeling like this. But you also don't have to just push through it. Don't just wait until, the kids are at school or they're sleeping through the night or whatever, because it might not happen for a long time. You don't have to just suffer. Your brain is literally trying to tell you it needs some support. And with the right support, you can feel sharper, you can feel more focused, and you can feel more like yourself again. And I know this because I see this in my clients all the time. So Next week, I am running a brain health workshop. I am calling it the Well-Fed Brain, and I am going to show you exactly how to fuel your brain to boost your energy and to stop feeling so foggy and forgetful without completely overhauling your life, without any overwhelm. I promise I don't do overwhelm. So if you want to wake up feeling clear-headed and in control instead of in that constant daze like you're wading through treacle, then this is the workshop for you. The workshop is going to go on sale this weekend, and there will be an early bird discount exclusively for those on my mailing list as a starting point. So if you sign up before the end of the weekend, you'll get that early bird discount. And I'm also going to share a 1 week brain boosting meal plan specifically designed with all the nutrients that I've mentioned here, plus many, many more that you will learn about in the workshop. But you'll only get that and the early bird discount if you are on my mailing list. So if you're not already on my mailing list, get on there. If you don't know whether you're there or not, head to the show notes for the link to join, or you can find me on Instagram and send me a message and I will get you added. I'd love to see you there at the workshop. I have so much exciting stuff to share. I'm writing it as we speak, and I love talking about this kind of stuff. It is such a brilliant light bulb moment for so many people. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening in to this week's episode of Raising Healthy Mothers, and I will see you again next week.